Everyone knows that when it comes to advertising, sex sells. But it turns out the advertising agencies may have it all wrong. Ohio State University researchers found that ads using sex or violence may backfire, turning off potential customers. Derek Thompson is senior editor at The Atlantic. Derek, good morning.
Good morning.
What were the researchers actually fishing around for here?
So this is a really interesting time for advertising, I think, because you're seeing ad dollars shift screens from television to phones to tablets and computers. And so it's important right now for advertisers to think, all right, how do we get people to buy certain things? How do we understand the psychology of our audiences where they're living? And what these Ohio State researchers did is they did a meta-analysis of more than 50 studies, 8,000 participants, essentially saying, all right, when they were watching advertisements around violent or sexy programming, were they more likely to buy products? When they were watching advertisements that themselves were more violent and sexy, did that increase their perception of the brand? Did they say they'd be more likely to buy that product? And it turns out the answer to those questions is a big fat no. Sex and violence, even though it attracted attention, did not increase intention to buy.
The folks at Mad Men would be so disappointed by this particular study. I want to ask you about this, though, because we found an ad. This is from 1911, a print ad, full frontal nudity to sell soap. Why would you say an ad like this is just not effective today based on this?
So it's really interesting. You've mentioned that there's a 1911 ad using sex to sell. You mentioned that Mad Men often use sex to sell. Partially, I think the reason that sex doesn't sell well anymore is that it's been used to sell for so long.
Yeah.
It's become seen as formulaic. And formulas don't work because the second that the audience realizes that something is formulaic, they're less likely to like it. So it's like essentially stamping a big fat word advertisement over the advertising when you see something that is too explicitly trying to sell you something. So I think on the one hand, you have oversaturation in sex and violence to sell products, and at the same time, people are too explicitly aware of the fact that there are certain violent and sexy tropes trying to get them to buy soap or cars or lingerie, and as a result, their disposition is to say, this is an ad, I'm not going to be persuaded by this.
The intention is transparent, if you would.
Exactly.
So does it matter where the ad's placed?
It does. Context matters. And this is something that's been true for a long time. That, if you're selling advertising in, Time Magazine, on CBS, on Facebook, you want the ad to be contextually congruent. You want it to fit into the stream, whether that stream is a stream of images, a stream of pages. And so they did find that if you have a somewhat violent ad in a somewhat violent episode of television, for example, that is slightly more likely to work than the alternative. But at the same time, they did find that overall, violent shows and violent ads not nearly as effective as people think.
Do you think it'll change anything?
I think it will change something. I think that people right now in advertising are becoming more aware of the fact that consumers are smart. They know an ad when they see it. And so you see a lot of ads that are self-recognizing. Hello, this is an advertisement for yada yada. Or essentially they will try to find more sort of high arousal ways to play with things by making people feel adorable.
Funny for me sells.
Exactly.
Derek Thompson, thanks so much for being with us this
Thank
morning.
you.